she's among the most tumultuous public figures of our time. Convicted of passing classified information to Wikileaks, Chelsea Manning's story strikes at a fundamental dilemma of our cyber age: the delicate balance between protecting government secrets versus the public's right to know. Her groundbreaking fight for transgender rights and her controversial clemency have thrust her into the center of so many ideological skirmishes. She sat down with me exclusively for her first ever television interview. Blending into the crowded streets of New York City, petite and unassuming, you'd never know this young woman is one of the most divisive figures of our time.
Private Manning is a traitor and should not have been turned into a martyr.
Brad Manning is a hero.
Chelsea Manning, the transgender soldier convicted of leaking the biggest trove of government secrets in U.S. history, setting off a firestorm of controversy.
Leaked hundreds of thousands of sensitive documents.
The whistleblower protections.
About government secrets.
Poses a very real and potential threat.
National security and the people's right to know. At 29, she spent nearly a quarter of her life in prison, and up until this point has only told her story through words on paper. So many people call you a traitor. Many call you a hero. Who is Chelsea Manning?
I'm just me. It's as simple as that.
And yet the road to get here has been rough. Growing up in the Oklahoma Bible Belt, she was known then as Bradley Manning. She says she found it increasingly difficult to fit in.
I was really struggling with gender. I was struggling as a teenager. You know, I'm like looking for my place in the world.
What made you feel the call to enlist in the military?
I would see on the television, on the evening news, you know, the surge in Iraq, Iraq descending into chaos. I felt like maybe I can do something, maybe I can make a difference.
Manning's computer skills earned her a spot as an Army intelligence analyst, deployed to Iraq, where she was tasked with sifting through classified reports. But she says it opened her eyes to a starkly different version of the war.
Come on.
Images like these, American soldiers opening fire from an Apache helicopter.
Oh yeah, look at that, right through the windshield.
On what would turn out to be civilians, including children.
Oh, it's their fault for bringing their kids to a battle. That's right.
Among the 12 dead, 2 journalists from Reuters.
Everything that you need to know about warfare is right there in one 47-minute video.
What do you mean by that?
Counterinsurgency warfare is not a simple thing. It's not as simple as like good guys versus bad guys. It is a mess.
Manning says she read news articles about how Reuters had tried in vain to request this video for 2 years, so she decided to bring it up the chain of command. What did he or she say back?
It's just another incident. The only reason that it sticks out and is prominent is because it was 2 journalists. There are thousands and thousands of videos like that.
But as Manning is dealing with hard drives full of government secrets, she's grappling with a secret of her own. In a moment of desperation, she emails this photo of herself to a superior, saying, "This is my problem. It's the cause of my pain and confusion."
It was draining after a while. I felt like I'm not being myself.
So she sought solace online in WikiLeaks-themed chat rooms.
We need more means of being able to safely and securely reveal government wrongdoing.
And you decide to risk your career to break the law. What was it that you were seeing that compelled you to do that?
I stopped seeing just statistics and information, and I started seeing people.
Roger, currently engaging approximately 8 individuals.
So Manning decided to leak and release that airstrike video, and later other classified documents, to WikiLeaks.
The material is traumatic. It was classified.
Thus began a game of cat and mouse with a contact named Nathaniel, who Manning said she believed was Julian Assange himself. At the time, WikiLeaks was just an obscure open government website. So why WikiLeaks then?
I think it's important to remember the context. I tried to go to the Washington Post first, and I tried to go to the New York Times.
Over the course of 4 months, she leaked diplomatic cables, battlefield reports, and Guantanamo detainee profiles, more than 700,000 documents in all. The impact, explosive.
It's the biggest leak in U.S. military history.
There are names, there are operations.
It is an attack on the international community.
Less than 2 months after the disclosures first made news, Manning would be taken into custody from her barracks in Iraq. Did you think you would ever get caught? Were you ready to pay the price?
I'm not focused on consequences or what this means or what that means. I'm focused on the day-to-day.
Meanwhile, the government scrambling to assess the actual damage Manning's leaks had caused. Do you consider Chelsea Manning a whistleblower?
No.
Rick Leggett was a high-ranking intelligence official at the NSA at the time.
She didn't go through any of the whistleblowing channels that she had. That she could have gone to the Judge Advocate General. She could have gone to her congressional representatives. They would have welcomed that.
So you didn't think any of it was going to threaten national security?
No.
There are some higher-ups in the intelligence community who would argue, you know, you're a low-level analyst. There's no way you could have known what the outcome of that would have been.
Right, but this is the report. These are the reports that I work with. I'm the subject matter expert for this stuff.
And yet, one could argue she was willing to put her own liberty and her own military career on the line in order to expose these.
Does that sound extraordinarily arrogant to you? It does to me.
In what way?
It's to say that my judgment is better than that of everybody else, and so I'm going to take this upon myself to make this decision with consequences that I couldn't possibly understand, and I'm going to do it because it makes me feel like I'm doing the right thing. That's the definition of arrogance.
Turns out some of the low-level Army battlefield reports that Manning leaked were found in Osama bin Laden's compound after his death. You may have been motivated to get the information into the public sphere, but you might have also given it to our enemies.
Right, but I have a responsibility to the public. It's not black and white. It's complicated.
But the law was clear. Back in the States, the military's response, severe. 22 charges, many under the Espionage Act. She was facing up to 136 years in prison. Now in a military brig at Quantico, she'd faced 9 months of solitary confinement before her court-martial even began. The military says for her own protection. What were those days like for you?
It's a mind game. So you're sitting in a room by yourself.
The UN investigator called it cruel and inhuman.
Right.
Manning ultimately pled guilty to some charges, and after a 2-month-long court-martial...
The verdict. The Army private convicted of leaking America's secrets, but spared by the judge from the most serious charge, aiding America's enemies.
The sentence handed down, the longest ever for spilling classified information. Here you are, 25 years old. When they said 35 years in prison, what went through your mind?
You're thinking more about how am I going to get through the next day?
Manning's appeals lawyers, Vince Ward, David Hammond, and Nancy Hollander, say the military was trying to make an example of her.
They overcharged and they overreacted.
And tried to turn it into the case of the century.
Set the whistleblowers free!
Her case striking a nerve about the precarious balance between government accountability
No, he shouldn't be prosecuted.
and protecting our nation's secrets.
We're nominating for Nobel Prize.
I think he's completely a traitor.
I mean, you can't be messing around with national security data.
He deserves a medal.
Whistleblowers have a very important part in our government.
Within days of being sentenced, Manning became the poster child for another cause and more controversy. What made you decide to come out as trans after being sentenced?
I had to be who I am.
But at Fort Leavenworth, a men's military prison, she had to fight for her right to exist as a transgender woman. So your despair was not with the 35-year prison sentence. It was
much more immediate.
It had more to do with your needing to be Chelsea.
Yeah, I had never done that. I had never been able to be who I was.
At first, the military denied Manning's request for medical treatment for her gender transition. What would you say to those who feel that taxpayers shouldn't be paying for hormone treatments?
Well, you know, it's healthcare is something that prisoners have a right to, and trans healthcare is necessary.
In what way is trans healthcare necessary medical care?
It's literally what keeps me alive. It keeps me from feeling like I'm in the wrong body. You know, like I get these horrible I used to get these horrible feelings like I just want to rip my body apart. It's really, really awful.
Healthcare for transgender people is not cosmetic, it is not experimental.
But with the help of ACLU civil rights lawyer Chase Strangio, Manning was eventually granted hormone therapy, undergarments, and makeup. All of this heralded as landmark victories.
She was the first person to receive hormone therapy in a military prison.
Chelsea needs us now more than ever.
I will never stop fighting for Chelsea and my transgender siblings.
I want people to see the truth.
Manning's following on the outside growing, bolstered by her prolific writing and tweeting about everything ranging from her thoughts on government transparency to sharing her favorite playlists. While outside, Manning's supporters were fighting to sway the court of public opinion, from behind bars,
I think that you could see that Chelsea's state of mind was that she was deteriorating throughout the process of the appeal.
and you grew so despairing that you tried to take your life.
Yes. It's a very dark place. You're like, if I can't be me, then who am I? You just want the pain to stop. The pain of not knowing who you are or why you are this way. You just want it to go away.
And then to make matters worse, she was sent to solitary confinement.
The prison said that she interfered with the good order and discipline of the prison by attempting to kill herself is just a horrendous thought, if you think about it.
She was punished for trying to survive, and then she was punished for trying to die. And that was just an incredibly bleak, hard time that was during the summer of 2016.
So her legal team decided that asking President Obama for mercy, for a shorter sentence, might be Chelsea's only hope. When we come back.
I wrote this letter to Obama, and it was real, and it was raw, and it was only intended for him.